Hello, my name's Brad Phillips. I'm the owner of Puppy Steps Training, and today we're going to be doing Goldie's demonstration. We are super proud of Goldie. She is a very fun and very sweet puppy. I think you guys are just going to love her. And she has progressed really well with our training program. So I'm excited to show off what she's learned. I'm excited for you to see her and to work with her and integrate her into your family. So to give you an idea of what to expect with this video, so the first two sections are going to be more talking. We're going to go over what I call my 3 keys to success. That's consistency, follow through, and management. Those concepts are how we transition all of this training into your home. This is how you see success, and this is how you teach Goldie what your expectations are. After that, we're going to talk about what my expectations are with crate training and house training and how to transition that into your home. And then finally, after we get through that, then we will pull Goldie out. We'll demonstrate her manners, her obedience commands, and her leash work. So like I said, she's doing awesome. I'm very excited to bring her down to you and show off what she's learned. As you watch this video, if you have questions, please write them down and we can go over those on Tuesday. So with that, let's jump into our keys to success. Today we're going to be doing a training demonstration for you. So we're going to walk you through the program. We're going to show you everything that your puppy has learned. We're also going to teach you how to continue with the training. Now, before we get to the more demonstrating part of the program, we're first going to talk about some really important information that's going to help you have a lifetime of success with your puppy. So your puppy is doing fantastic. Otherwise, we wouldn't be sending him home. Like I've told you before, I train to a standard, not a strict time frame. So your puppy has reached our standard. We have very high expectations, and it's going to be important for you that as you bring them home, that you have the same expectations. Dogs are really neat, that they will live up to our expectations, whether we set them high or whether we set them low. And if one person in the family sets them low and everybody else is high, they're going to continue to try and test waters and see what they can get away with. So we want to make sure that the whole family is on the same page. And that's also why these demonstrations are so important, so that we can set the bar before our puppy ever enters into our home. Now, it's important to remember, your puppy is a puppy. And so they're going to have energy and they're going to make mistakes. Just because they went through our training program does not make them a perfect dog. I always like to joke with people, if you were expecting perfection, you might want to run over to Walmart and grab you a stuffed animal. And even there, you're probably going to find a flaw. So it's important to understand that our puppy is going to make mistakes. But it's also important to understand how to deal with those mistakes as they arise. Because failure or making mistakes is a very important part of learning. And so we have what we call our 3 keys to success. Now these are how we try and keep mistakes at a minimum and make sure they don't become bad habits. They're also how we continue with the training and make sure that we have success in our home. So those 3 keys are consistency, follow through, and management. You have to have all 3. These 3 things teach our puppy that we are the leader, that we're going to take care of them, that they don't have to worry, and that their needs are going to be met. Now, so we're going to start with consistency. We've taught them a certain way, and so it's important to try and be consistent along the same lines. Now, if you say things a little bit differently, as long as you're consistent with that, your puppy will understand, but it may take them a few days. And that's why we talk about the transition period. And so for the next 2 to 4 weeks, your puppy is going to be transitioning. During this transition period, they're trying to learn what the expectations are. They're trying to learn the way that you give commands. They're going to learn what they're allowed to get away with and what they're not. And especially over the next 3 days, your puppy is going to be confused. And so they're going to probably test more boundaries, just trying to see whether that consistency, that follow through, that management, they're going to try and see whether those are there. Now, also during this transition period, they're going to be undergoing a period of stress. They're leaving a familiar environment, now being thrown into an unfamiliar environment. So they may lose their appetite. They may get what we call the puppy blues, where they're not as active as they usually are. Maybe they seem a little bit sad. They also may act out once again and see what they can get away with. So it's important that we are patient with them. I want to try and really focus on building a relationship with my puppy during these first 3 days versus trying to build these commands up back to where we have them right now. Because with the stress, there's also going to be just a little bit of regression. Now, regression doesn't mean that they're going to pee in the house or that they're not going to do commands for you. It just means, once again, that they're going to be under stress, and so we're going to take that into an account, and we're going to lower our expectations just a little bit. Now, I'm always going to enforce manners. It doesn't matter whether they're stressed or not. They're not allowed to bite me. They're not allowed to jump up. They're not allowed to break through doorways. So we're going to expect the manners, and we're going to show you all of these here in a few minutes. But the commands, I'm going to keep to a minimum. Now, during this demonstration, we're going to show you some amazing stays, the place command, and they're doing awesome. But we're going to take that down. We're not going to expect them to hold a 5-minute stay on their place within the first 3 days. Instead, I'll still do these commands, but I'm going to keep them really light. I'm going to keep them fun, and I'm going to make sure that I'm helping my puppy succeed. I always want to train to success, not to failure. I never want to play guess what's in my head. I want to make sure that they have all the answers to the test. So now let's just break down those 3 keys. So the first one, consistency. We are a balanced dog training program, and so we have markers for both reinforcement and correction. And you're going to want to use these same markers. They give a clear understanding of whether your puppy is doing the right thing or the wrong thing. Like I said, we want to give them lots of information, lots of feedback. So our positive markers, we have the word good and the word okay. So good is a marker that means keep going. It's an intermediary marker. So if I put them on a place, I'm going to tell them place. I'm going to say, like, good girl or good boy, and I'm going to enforce that you're doing the right thing, however you are not done. Now, when they're finished with that command, when I'm releasing them from that stay, then I'll use the word okay. So okay marks the correct behavior. It tells them that they're released from a stay and that they've done the right thing. And so it's really important to use these markers to give them that information. Once again, I'll tell them good, so that's good job, keep going. Okay, you're finished, you're able to get off, you're able to maybe venture out a little bit, give them a little bit of freedom. Okay just means that you're done with that behavior at that time. Now, we also are giving them rewards during this time. So your puppy right now is very food motivated. That is their currency. Just as you would not go to work if you did not receive a paycheck, your puppy is not going to work for you unless they're being rewarded or they're paid out. Now, eventually, as they get a little bit older, we can wean those rewards off. There's also times where I don't want to use a food reward. But right now, and especially during this transition period, we want to use a high value reward. And so I'll give them a little piece of treat. I might give them some ham or hot dogs or maybe a little bit of cheese, something high value, just to really drive this point home that I'm going to reward you and that I have the same expectations and that this is very positive for working for me. Now, there are going to be times where you don't have food on you, and that's where I'll use praise and affection. And of course, I mix that in with everything. I want to praise my dog. I want to show them affection and really show them that they're doing the right thing. Now, if I'm using a toy as a reward, which a toy is a good form of a reward, that's when I do not want to have treats on me. I want them to be focused on that toy. Because the moment that I pull out a treat, then they're going to forget about the toy and they're going to want to work for food. And I want them to have a good toy drive because that's a really important way to mentally stimulate your dog as well as meet their physical needs so that we can give them exercise. So those are our 3 primary forms of rewards. That's food, praise and affection, and toys. So use all 3, but really keep it heavy on simple treats right now. Really drive this point home. Now, when we talk about a correction, so that's our second part of consistency. Like I said, you have to have both. I do not believe that you need to physically dominate your dog. I want our relationship to be built out of respect for me as the leader. And so I give them, once again, a lot of feedback, but my correction a lot of times is just no, and that's all it is. Dogs read our voice fluctuation and our body language very, very well. And so me changing my voice and just giving them a sharp no is all the correction I need. Now, once your dog fixes their mistake, then I'm not going to carry on this correction for a long period of time because your dog's not going to understand. They're just going to think that you're mad at them. And so the correction needs to be quick, it needs to be timely, and then we're done. So like I said, no is kind of that primary correction. Sometimes it's whatever comes out of my mouth, depending on the severity or depending on the action. Now, to kind of give you an example, once again, if I'm working with them and I put them in a stay and they break, it happens all the time because once again, we learn a lot through failure. Now, if they break a stay, I'm not going to get mad. It's not that big a deal. We're working, we're training and learning. And so I'll just simply, no, and then I'll have them do it again. I will always end on a correct behavior. I am never going to end on a failure. And if I have to break a behavior down to make sure that we get that correct repetition, I will. Now, if they do something a little bit more serious, maybe they jump up on me, which is one of my biggest pet peeves, then I'm going to give them a little bit more of a sharp correction. So it'd be, no, off. My voice gets a little deeper. A lot of times I kind of puff out my chest and I'm changing my body language. Once again, that's enough of a correction. And then let's say they do something a little bit more serious, like they start to pee in the house. That's when I get frantic. And so my correction might look like, no, 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 no. And I'm just trying to get them to stop. And then I'm going to quickly take them outside. And just as important as that correction is following through and making sure I teach them what the expected behavior is, which I'll get to in just 1 minute. The last part of a correction I want to talk about is the physical correction. Now, once again, I don't believe you need to physically dominate your dog, but there is power, once again, in telling your dog no, and I will accompany that with a leash pop, which is just pop, pop. I'm not trying to yank them around. It's not to inflict any harm. The purpose of that is to regain their attention to then change their behavior. Now, once again, I don't want to injure my dog. I don't want to yank them around. It is not to inflict harm at all. It is simply to regain composure. So, that's consistency. You need to consistently reward, you need to consistently correct. You have to have both. Whatever you reinforce will get replicated. And so if you are not consistent and the only time you give your dog feedback is when they're doing something wrong, guess what? They're probably not going to respect you, and instead it's going to be more of a fear-based relationship, which is what we don't want. So even if my puppy is just laying at my feet chewing on something they're supposed to, I might simply just bend down, pet them a little bit, tell them they're being a good boy. We want to give them that feedback, and especially as you're working with them, as you start to implement the commands and the leash work, give them that feedback. It is going to build your relationship more than anything you can do. So be consistent. Once again, anytime I give my dog a correction, I want to then follow through and help them understand what the correct behavior is. So that's where key number 2 comes in. So key number 2, follow through. Like I said, anytime that I correct my dog, I want to then teach them what the expected behavior is. So I'm always going to follow through. Whether I ask them to do a command and they are confused or maybe they ignore me, or whether they're doing something they're not supposed to and we catch them in the act. The follow through is a little bit different on each one. So first off, let's talk about maybe you're sitting there and you see your puppy go over and start to try and chew on a baseboard or chew on something they're not supposed to. This is where we use a concept that we call marking and redirecting. So if I saw them start chewing on something they weren't supposed to, I'm going to immediately correct them. So that correction is no. Now, once I correct them, they look at me, I'm going to redirect them into an appropriate behavior. So even if they don't look at me, I'm then going to remove them from that situation. So we'll use the example of chewing on a baseboard. I'll tell them no. Now I'm going to take them over to maybe their bed and I'll give them something to chew on. And so marking the incorrect behavior, redirecting into an appropriate behavior. Now during this puppy stage, puppies need to chew. And so my redirection, I'm going to try and match texture. They were chewing on a baseboard, maybe I'll give them a bully stick or a marrow bone, something hard that they can really get into. If they want to chew on maybe one of your pillows or a soft bed, give them a plush toy. They're chewing on their leash, give them a rope. Try and match those needs, match consistency. So you can do that with a lot of different behaviors. Even jumping is another one. A lot of times if your puppy's jumping, I'll correct them for jumping and then I'll redirect them into an appropriate behavior like a sit. So we teach them, if they want our attention, they've got to do this behavior. This is a good behavior versus the bad behavior. Now let's talk about follow through if they ignore you or maybe don't understand. So let's use the example of jumping on the couch. Let's say we're in the kitchen, we're cooking, we look over and Marley is jumping up on the couch. So I would immediately say, Marley, off, giving her a command. If she gets down and listens to that, then I'm going to reward her. So I'm going to reinforce the behavior that she just performed. If she got down, maybe came over to me, I'm going to pet her. I'm going to tell her she's a good girl because she fixed her mistake. And so the correction is done. She did the right behavior after she was asked. That's all that needs to happen. Now, if she didn't, if she had her paws up there and she looked over her shoulder like, yeah, what are you going to do about it? You're over there. I will not repeat the command. The worst thing you can do is sit there and go, Marley, off, get down, get off the couch. Because you're just giving her a whole spiel of what she doesn't understand. If she doesn't do the behavior when asked, I am not going to repeat the command. I will correct her. So if I said, Marley, off, and she didn't get down, I am then going to say no, and now I'm going to start to approach her. I'm going to walk across the room. Even if I am comfortable wrapped up in a blanket, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go and remove her. Now, if she fixed her mistake with that prompt, if I said no and I started to motion towards her and she got down, I'm going to reward that behavior. I'll call her over, have her sit, praise her, make sure that she understands that, yes, that's exactly what I want. That's a good girl. Now, if she still ignored you and kept trying to get up onto the couch or maybe succeeded and now is trying to get comfortable, I am going to walk all the way over to her, and at that point, I will repeat the correction. I will not repeat the command. I will tell her no again, and now I'm going to remove her, and I am going to redirect her into an appropriate activity. Whether that's you're going to come over by me, you're going to lay on the floor, you're going to chew on a toy. Or maybe it's, okay, I can't watch you very well right now, you're just going to go take a little break in the crate. Now, I'm not going to be super mad and shove her in the crate and make it a big deal, because then you're going to destroy the crate. Instead, the correction has already happened. Now I'm redirecting her into something appropriate to do. And so the correction is done. I do not need to carry on this frustration or this anger after the correction has happened. But I am always going to give them that correction, and I am always going to follow through. Now, let's just say that I gave your puppy a command, and so I put them Sorry, let me take that back. Let's just say that I asked them for a sit. So I said sit, gave them a hand signal, and they looked at me like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I've never seen this command before. Now, instead of getting frustrated and repeating myself, I'm going to maybe adjust my body language. The worst thing you can do is go sit, sit, no sit, sit, because they're not going to understand at that point. Dogs don't speak English. They understand the sound of our voice making that sound of sit. And so they know that it's one time. So sit is the command, not sit, 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 sit. So one time, ask them once. Now, once again, if they look up at me like, I don't know what you're talking about, I'm going to give them a few seconds to think about it. Dogs are not robots. They have to process things. And at the same time, while I'm allowing them to process, maybe I'll adjust my body language. So maybe I'll kind of lean forward or make the hand gesture. But I'm going to help them succeed. Now then, if they blatantly ignored me and just tried to walk off, that is when I will correct them. I will say, no, now I'm going to reset. So I'm going to bring them back to the same area and ask them again. But I will only repeat the command if they completely walk away. If they're focused on me, just trying to understand what I am asking, I will not repeat the command, but I will adjust my body language to help them succeed. If they ignore me or they run off, then I will implement a correction and reset to where I will repeat the command. So hopefully that makes sense. If you do have any questions on any of this, please let me know. But follow through is super important. The moment that you don't follow through, the moment you call your dog to come and they run the other direction and you say, I'll get them later, is the moment that your dog loses respect for you and are going to try and push more and more buttons or try and push more and more boundaries. So it is so important that you follow through and help your dog succeed. Give them necessary feedback and information. So that was key number 2. We've got consistency, number 1, follow through, number 2, and now number 3, which is management. Management is going to be the most important thing you do throughout this transition period. When we manage our dog, we maintain control and we provide an environment where they don't even have the opportunity to create bad habits. Good management when bringing a puppy home is 100% supervision. 100% supervision is active eyes on them at all times. That's not, well, I saw him a few minutes ago. You have to know what they're doing at all times, what they have in their mouth, what they're getting into, where they're laying down, all of it. 100% supervision. Now, there are some good management tools to help you along the way. The crate is your best management tool. You know that if they're in the crate, they're not chewing something up, they're not destroying a family heirloom, and they're not peeing. So use the crate to your advantage. Anytime you cannot give them 100% supervision, use the crate as management. Use a leash. I let my puppies drag around just a really lightweight 4-foot leash for the first few weeks that they're in my house. That way I have a quick way to grab them if needs be, or to take them outside. I will also keep them on a long lead until I've built a relationship to where I know that they are going to follow through and they are going to come back when called. So that once again, this way, they do not have an opportunity to run off and not listen to me. They don't have an opportunity to create a bad habit. Now, as we go throughout the manners, we're going to talk about how to manage those each individually, because they're all managed a little bit differently. But the key points to remember is 100% supervision. That is the most important thing you are going to do over this transition period. Know where your dog is at all times. And once again, that's not, oh, I knew where they were 2 minutes ago. It's, I know where they are now. I know what they're chewing on. Because if you walk around the corner and your dog has had an accident and you don't see it, there's nothing you can do. And so by good management, you provide the opportunity to develop a relationship, as well as to create a set of expectations that your dog understands and that are going to set you up for success. So recap, the 3 keys: be consistent, both rewarding and correcting. Lots of feedback is important. Whatever you reinforce will get replicated. If you ask them to do something, follow through. Do not allow your dog to get away with ignoring you or ending on an incorrect behavior. Always train to success, not to failure. And make sure that you follow through. If you ask them to do it, help them succeed. And the last one, management. Manage your dog, 100% supervision. You know what they are getting into at all times. You know where they are. That is going to set you up for success. So now we're going to switch gears and we're going to pull out your puppy and we're going to walk through all of the training with you. As you watch this video, please write down questions and then give me a phone call or an email. We want to help you succeed. We want to make sure that this transition is as smooth as possible. And that is, once again, the purpose of this video, is to help you. And so if you have any questions, please let us know. But we're very happy with where your puppy's at and excited to show off this training. This next video, we're going to be talking about our expectations with crate training and house training. Now, with the crate, I expect that your puppy is sleeping through the night, 8 hours, no problem, and up to 4 hours during the day. Now, in the evening time, the biggest part of crate training is setting a routine. So here at Puppy Steps Training, we're putting them to bed at 10 p.m. and getting them up at 6 a.m. So a good solid 8 hours. Now, they can go longer than that as they get a little bit older, but as you bring them home, don't expect to push that right away. If you are going to adjust that schedule, do it incrementally and go slow. Just know that at about 5:50, 6 o'clock, they're going to start getting restless because they're used to getting up at that time. Now, another big part of sleeping through the night is that mealtime routine. So we feed them at 6 p.m. and usually right around 6 a.m. The morning time, that a.m. meal, isn't super important that you stick to that schedule. You can honestly get them up and feed them when you're ready. However, the evening time meal, we do want to feed them by 6 p.m., no later than that, because I do want a good 4 hours for them to clear everything that's in their system so that they can sleep through the night. Now, we also limit water for the first couple weeks because they're stressed out. When a puppy's stressed out, they drink a lot more and they have to go to the bathroom a lot more. So we want to just, take away some of the fuel for that fire. I still want to make sure that they have plenty of access to water. I just don't want unlimited access. So anytime that they're spending a lot of time outside, I do want to make sure they have access to water. I also want to make sure that they have water when they're eating, and then I'll give it to them, several times throughout the day. But as soon as I feel like they're done or they've had enough, we're going to take it away. Because what I don't want to do is them drink so much that then they're distended. So I don't want them feeling like a panic that they need to drink because it's going to get taken away, but I also don't want them to think that they can just engorge themselves. So hopefully that makes sense, but that routine is a big part of sleeping through the night. Now, they shouldn't be having accidents and they shouldn't be making noise in the crate. So, if they do make some noise in the crate, for the first couple minutes, we're going to ignore that. We're going to let them just settle down. Especially in the first day or two as they get home, they are going to be under some stress, and so you're their source of comfort. But I don't want them thinking that if they throw a big fit, that you're going to let them out. So for the first 5 minutes, just let them kind of cry it out. Then the first thing that I'll go to is just draping a blanket over the crate. By doing that, we're making sure that they can't see outside, and they're a lot like parrots. If they can't see what's going on, they're going to settle down easier. We've also taught them a hush command. If they do, just continue carrying on. And so if I need to give them that command, it'll be no, hush. And so it's a little bit louder. Obviously, you're implementing a correction, and they should quiet down. Now, if they just carry on like they didn't even hear that, then I might accompany with a little tap on top. So I'm not banging on the crate, but it will just be, no, hush. And it's just to break them of their reverie. I don't want to, kick the crate across the room or cause like any type of fearfulness, but it's just like, hey, knock it off. So that's our correction there. Now, the biggest mistake that you can make with crate training is letting them out if they are crying. Because as soon as you do that, they figure out like, oh, if I throw a fit, they're going to let me out. So absolutely no positive attention if they're crying in the crate. The second worst thing that you can do is come over and go, oh, it's okay, I'll let you out in a minute, and stick your fingers in the crate. Because same thing, you're giving them positive attention for throwing a fit. So it is no positive attention if they're crying in the crate. If they are making noise and you are about to let them out, still expect some silence. So I'll tell them hush, and I want them to give me like 10 seconds of silence. If you think, oh my goodness, they're going to have an accident, they need to go to the bathroom, then I might, expect still some silence, but it might be more like 3 seconds. So I'd say hush, okay, now let's go, and we'll get them outside. So that's our evening stuff. During the day, they should also be able to be in their crate comfortably without making noise, without having accidents. Like I said, we build that up to 4 hours at a time. You can put them in the crate more than that. I just don't do longer than a 4-hour block at this point. I utilize the crate very heavily while we're transitioning and while we're working on potty training. So don't be afraid to put them in the crate. It is honestly your best friend. They can be inside the crate for as little as a minute, all the way up to that 4 hours. So anytime you can't give them that 100% supervision, utilize the crate. Now, we also want to use the crate both when we're home as well as when we leave. If we only put our puppy in the crate when we're leaving, you're going to build some separation anxiety. They're going to associate the crate with you leaving, and it's going to cause even more panic, even more noise. So utilize the crate when you're home, when you're in the same room as them, as well as when you leave. Now, the other thing is, don't make it obvious that you're leaving all the time. If you make a big deal out of putting them in the crate when you are leaving, same thing, you're going to build some separation anxiety. And it's the same concept when you come home. If you come in the door and you immediately rush over to your dog and, oh, I missed you, you're going to build a charge and they're going to go crazy in the crate. So we want to make sure that that's kind of nonchalant. I'll get to you in a second. Sometimes I'll let you out immediately. Sometimes I'll go to the bathroom or go get a drink. And that way we don't build that charge, but it should be a very calm experience being in the crate. So with that, now I want to talk about our expectations with house training. So your puppy, if they're going home, obviously is doing very, very well with house training. My expectations are that they can be inside the house for 2 hours without needing a break, without having accidents. Now, they've been doing that here, but we're going to drop or lower our expectations for the first couple weeks to make sure that we train to success. Now, that's not saying that I expect a bunch of regression and you're going to have accidents. It's just saying that I'm going to set them up for success. We always train to success, and I want to make sure that I don't give them the opportunity to fail. So we're going to give you a very strict schedule for the first 2 weeks, and if you'll just follow that, you're not going to give them, once again, that opportunity for accidents. Now, before I go into that schedule, just a couple things that I want to talk about. One is, obviously, there's going to be some hills and valleys with the house training, but we always want them in this forward progression. So once again, we're going to set them up for success. So that's a big part of the schedule, is giving them lots of opportunities to go to the bathroom. And honestly, during these first 2 weeks, paranoia is going to be your best friend. If you even think that they're going to have an accident, or they're like, maybe they need to go to the bathroom, just take them outside. I would much rather take them out 10 times than clean up one accident. You're also going to look for a lot of indicators that they need to go. Once again, 100% supervision is the most important thing you're going to do during this transition. So if you're watching them and you notice that they get up and try and walk away from you, that's an indicator that they may need to go. If they start sniffing really heavily, panting, pacing around, just take them outside. Once again, if your gut says maybe they need to go, just take them out. Now, if they get up and they start spinning little circles, just take them outside. Nobody likes what happens next. Okay, so those are the indicators that we're looking for. If they have an accident, there's kind of two scenarios we look for. One, if they have it away from you and you don't see it, but you stumble across it later, whether it's 2 minutes, whether it's an hour, there is nothing you can do about that. That means that you weren't giving them enough attention, you weren't paying attention to them, and so that's a slap on the wrist. We need to do better as the owner. If you can't give them that supervision, put them in the crate. So scenario number 2 is they start peeing right in front of us. If they're going to have an accident, that's what I want, because it provides a very valuable opportunity to teach them what I expect. So I'm going to correct them right there. So it's no, and I'm going to grab them and run them outside. Now, once I get outside, I'm going to change my attitude, and I'm going to bury that frustration deep down, and I'm going to give them the opportunity to finish. If they finish going to the bathroom outside, I am then going to praise and reward that behavior. That way I create a very black and white experience. It's absolutely not, you do not pee here. Yes, that's where I want you to go. Good dog, good girl, good boy, right? The worst thing you can do is they start peeing in front of you and you just kick them outside and then go and clean it up. Because now they just peed, they got corrected, but then they got to go outside and play. So it's so important that we go with them and we make sure that they have a job to do when they're going to the bathroom outside. Okay, so now our routine. So once again, it's, I consider it a minor inconvenience for the next 2 weeks for a lifetime of good house training. We did this at the very beginning, but once again, we're going to take them back down just to make sure we train to success. So here it is. First 24 hours, we are going to take them over to the bell. They're going to ring it, and we're going to go to the bathroom every 30 minutes. They get a treat when they ring the bell and when they go to the bathroom. Okay, so first 24 hours, every 30 minutes. The exception to all of this is if they're in the crate, you don't need to pull them out every 30 minutes. Or if they're just passed out asleep, I'm just going to watch them and I'm going to wait till they wake up. Okay, so day 1, first 24 hours, every 30 minutes. Day 2, I'm going to 45 minutes. Same thing, they're going to ring the bell. We're going to take them outside. They get a treat for ringing the bell. They get a treat for going to the bathroom. If they don't go to the bathroom, we just come right back in. It's a very neutral experience. Also, these first 2 days, because we are taking them out so often, I'm only going to give them a minute outside. It's going to be quick. We have a job to do. We're coming back inside. Now, if they haven't went for a couple hours and you're getting nervous, put them in the crate for 20 minutes and then do it again. Okay? Don't just give them free access to your house, especially if they haven't went to the bathroom for a little bit. Okay, so now day 3. At day 3, we're moving to an hour. So every hour, we're going to take them to the bells, give them an opportunity to go to the bathroom. But now we're changing things. They are no longer going to get a treat when they ring the bell. It is only if they go to the bathroom. Okay, where we're taking them out every hour, I'm also going to bump the time to being, I will give them 3 minutes outside, but no more than that. That's all they need. 3 minutes, we come back in. So for the next few days, so from days 3 to 8, I am staying at 1 hour. I am not going to surpass that. Every hour, we're going to the bells, we're giving them an opportunity to go to the bathroom. Okay, so that's the first week. Week number 2, all depends on how they did during week number 1. If they've done phenomenal, you haven't even thought about having an accident, or didn't have a close call, we're going to progress to 2 hours. So for me, I still go every 15 minutes and work up. But the exception is, if I get up to an hour and a half and we have a close call, then maybe I'll drop them back down. So I am more than willing to take away some of that freedom. I'm very, very slow to give it, very quick to take it away. But same thing, I'm only going to give them 3 minutes outside. They have the opportunity to go to the bathroom, we come right back in. You do not need to give them any more than 3 minutes outside. Otherwise, they're going to get distracted, they're going to stall, and they're not focused on what the job is. Okay, so that's the first 2 weeks. We're going to work up to 2 hours. From 2 weeks to a month, we are not surpassing 2 hours. Once again, be slow to give them that freedom, be quick to take it away. If you can follow this schedule, I promise you're going to have success, because one, we're beating them to the punch. This is not about them having to go to the bathroom that frequently. It is all about establishing a pattern, establishing a routine. This is where the bells are. This is where we're going to go to the bathroom. My expectations are for you to go in this certain place. Now, it's also important that you take them outside on a leash. That's going to help them focus on what they're doing. It can be a long lead, but I don't want to just give them free access to run and play. Okay, so that's our routine. Now I'm going to switch the camera angle, and I'm going to show you how we target the bells. Come here. Good boy. All right, so now we're going to talk about targeting the bells. So the first thing you're going to do when you get home is you're going to pull your bells out of your bag, and we're going to go through this exercise. The first part of this exercise we do off the door. You're only going to do this one time, but I'm going to hang the bells in front of Bodie here, and I'm going to reward him for touching them. I'm going to do this 4 or 5 times before I move to the door. Okay, once we do this and we move to the door, then I'm going to do a similar exercise where I'm going to lean up against the doorway and I'm going to stare at the bells. Every time he touches them, I'm going to say, okay, outside. I'll do that 3 or 4 times before taking him out. So we're just going to do those 2 parts one time. When I take him outside, I'm going to give him 1 to 3 minutes, depending on where we're at, to go to the bathroom, periodically saying the word outside. Now when he goes, I'm going to say, okay, good outside. I'm going to make it very rewarding. I'm going to give him a treat. I'm going to praise him because I really want to reinforce that behavior. If he doesn't go, we just come back inside. It's a neutral experience. We start over, okay? So I'm going to demonstrate that. So I'm just going to hang the bells. I'm going to stare at him, and every time, or stare at the bells. Every time he touches them, I'm going to say, okay. Okay, good boy. Do this 4 or 5 times. Okay, good boy. Okay, good boy. You can see that he quickly learns that this is a good little treat dispenser. Okay, good boy. So we're just making it fun. He's done that a handful of times. Now we're going to go to the door. Also, a little tip for you. I like to drop the leash and step on it. Okay, outside. That way I can keep control of him and I have both hands free. Okay, outside. Good boy. Okay, outside, good boy. So I'm going to have him do it 1 more time, and then we're going to go outside. Okay, outside, good boy. And once again, I'm going to walk him around on leash, periodically saying outside. Okay, you'll also notice he's expected to wait at the doorway. Okay, good boy. Now, after you do that little exercise, from here on out, when you target the bells, it's just going to be walking him over, staring at the bells. Once he rings it, okay, outside, and then we go outside, okay? And remember, for the first 2 days, I'm giving him a treat for ringing the bells. After that, no more treats. I also want to mention, don't be surprised if for the first 2 weeks, he doesn't go and ring the bells on his own. He may, but then again, we're going to be beating him to the punch so many times that he may not need to go, so we're going to beat him to the bells. So don't be worried about that. The other thing that I want to mention is just if he rings the bells, we have to go outside to the bathroom. There is no play. There is no, you just barely went out, so I'm going to ignore you. You have to take him out. If he keeps hitting the bells one right after another, then redirect him into something else to do. If you were headed outside to go for a walk or to go and play and he rings the bells, we're going to have to go, okay, outside. We're going to go to the bathroom, and then we're going to come back in, wait 10 to 20 seconds, and then we'll go outside. So if you're going outside to play or a walk, make sure you forego the bells. So that's our expectations with crate training and house training. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. We want to make sure this transitions over smooth, but this is definitely, as far as the house training goes, this is definitely the part of the program that requires the most effort, because it is those 2 weeks of constantly having to take him out. And then every dog house trains differently, so it may go longer than that till you feel confident and comfortable, but don't give him too much freedom until you trust him and you have that relationship. So We are now going to let Goldie out of the crate, and we're going to walk through our manners portion of this demonstration. So the manners are things that happen throughout the day. Anytime you're interacting with Goldie, I expect her to be well-mannered. So this is also what we're going to expect right out of the gate. As soon as we get down there, I'm expecting her to be well-mannered, and even though she's going to be under some stress with this transition, I still expect her to be under control. So this is how we develop a relationship with Goldie. This is how you teach her what your expectations are, and you show her that you have the same expectations with me. So we're going to start with her doorways. Anytime that we go through a closed door together or she comes out of the crate, I do expect her to hold an automatic stay. So she doesn't have to sit, she doesn't have to lay down, but she does have to show me that she is in control and she is waiting politely to go through that threshold. Now, like I said, we've been holding this to doors that we go through together, or I let her go through. You can build this up to be any threshold in your home as long as there's some consistency. So I'm going to open this crate. I'm going to show you her coming out. You'll notice I don't just fling it open and run away because she is still a puppy and I want to set her up for success. So as I open that, I'm looking to make sure that she's in control, and then I can gradually add more distance and release her. But especially during this transition, you don't want to set her up for failure right off the bat. So we're going to manage her. We are also going to set her up for success by utilizing a leash. So anytime we're going through an exterior door, we're going outside, I'm going to put that leash on, and that way if she does try and break, I can give her a simple leash correction, maybe even lift up my leg and block her, but I'm always going to help her succeed. You might feel silly, but if she bolts out the door, if she thinks that she's fast enough that she can beat you, we have to go and get her and do that again. If we let her get away with running through that door without waiting, then she's going to think that she can do that all the time. So that's why I say, like, we are going to set her up for success, and we are always going to follow through. No matter how simple the manner is, if she does the wrong thing, I'm going to help her succeed. So let's let Goldie out and start to show off these manners. Okay, good girl, good girl. So just as simple as that. She's waiting to be released. I say okay, and she's able to come through. Now if I was going out this exterior door, I would just keep a hold of this leash, open it. That way if she tried to run through, I could give her a little correction, maybe lift my leg up and block her, but I can say okay, and then we're able to go through. Now the same thing when we come back in. She doesn't have to sit, she just has to show me she's in control. Okay, and then she's able to come in. The next manner that we're going to show you is her greeting. So if Goldie wants to get my attention, she has to sit to do it. This is how she'll greet me when I've been away for a long time, or if I call her over, I expect her to sit in order to get my attention. This is also a replacement behavior for jumping. Good girl, good girl. So instead of jumping to get my attention, she's going to sit down. Now, this is going to be a big behavior for you to practice these next couple days, because this is what we consider an engagement exercise, which I'm going to show you what to do here in just a second. And this is how we show Goldie that the same rules apply, that if she wants my attention, she can sit to get it. So I want to build that trust with her. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my treat bag, make sure I got some treats on hand. I'll take the leash, I'm going to say her name, take a few steps backwards, and when she sits, I'll reward her. Now, for me and Goldie, we're at a point where I no longer give her a treat for greeting me. Instead, she gets my attention. But for the next 3 days at your home, no. We want to give her a treat every time that she does present this greeting to really enforce that behavior and build this relationship. So I'm just going to say, Goldie. I'm going to take a step back. When she sits, okay, good girl. Use that marker word, okay, and then give her a treat. So I'll do that 3 or 4 times. So I'll just, Goldie. When she sits, good girl, okay, good girl. Goldie. When she sits, okay, good girl, good girl. And then I can go ahead and pet her. Like I said, we're at the point now where she presents that greeting and she just gets my attention. But while we're building this relationship and we're teaching her what our expectations are, we need to make sure that we're really consistent with giving her a treat and rewarding that, making sure she understands that the same rules apply. Now, she is not going to greet every single stranger, nor do I want my dog to want to greet every single stranger. She is beautiful, and a lot of people are going to want to pet her. But if she's out of control, I'm going to tell people no. If you're okay with her greeting somebody, what I do is as I approach them, I say, give me 1 second. I'll stop maybe 3 feet shy. I will have Goldie do a greeting for me, and then I will invite that person up. If Goldie starts jumping, starts getting out of control, I will say, sorry, she's a little too distracted right now, and I'll walk away. Because I don't want them saying, oh, it's okay, I love dogs, and they pet her, and then they reinforce this behavior of jumping. So instead it's, no, and we'll walk away. Once she regains her composure, shows me that she's in control, then we can approach again. Come here. But same thing, I'm going to stop a couple feet shy, have her do a greeting for me, good girl, invite them up, then they can pet her. After they leave, I am also going to have her do another sit for me, so I can give her a reward. That way I come before and I come after whoever that person was. That way I'm teaching Goldie that I am far better than any other person that might approach her. Now, if she tried to jump up on me, I'm going to quickly tell her off. So even if she starts popping up right here next to me, I'm going to say off, and I'm going to lift my knee and kind of step into her. So it's a quick block. I don't have to be very firm with her, but I do want her to understand that she is not allowed to jump on me whatsoever. You'll also notice that during this greeting exercise, I step back and she follows. So if you think that she's going to jump and she's running at you, if you step back, she's going to try and jump for sure. So instead, I'll always step into her if I think that she's going to jump. That way I restrict the space, and if she does jump, I can bring my knee up and block her. Like I said, it's a very quick off, and I expect her to be in control. The off command also goes for if she's trying to jump up on furniture, up on the counter, anything. I say off, and I expect her to get down. Okay. The third part of this is if I'm presenting her a treat and she tries to rear up. If she does that, I'm going to say gently, I'm going to pull that treat away. I will also tell her gently if she gets a little too excited with her teeth. I want her to be very cautious when she takes treats, which she does really, really well. But I can just tell her gently and then expect her to be nice. But if she rears up, if she brings those 2 front paws off the ground, I'm pulling that treat away. She does not get that reward unless all 4 paws are on the ground. I also give her treats in the palm of my hand because if we give it to her between our thumb and forefinger, which is the way that children always want to give puppies treats, that's a very easy way to get our fingers nipped. We have practiced this because I don't want her trying to inhale my hand when she's trying to eat, but in general, I want to give it to her in the palm of my hand. Gently. Oh, that's a good girl. But she has a very, very soft mouth. She's just a very polite girl. Good girl. Good girl. Okay, so now our mealtime manners. Anytime I feed Goldie, I expect her to hold an automatic sit-stay. So I don't have to tell her stay. All I have to do is I shake that bowl, she sits down, I'll take a few steps back and set that bowl down. When I'm ready for her to be released, I'll say, okay, good girl, and then she can eat. Good girl. Good girl. If she breaks, I'll just pull that food bowl right back up. Okay. I shake it. Nope. Just like that, I'll tell her no, pull the food up, and I'll reset. Okay, good girl. Yeah, you just want treats, huh? We've spent a lot of time handling Goldie, why she eats. I don't like to make a habit of just always pulling her bowl away, but I will do that occasionally just to make sure she's comfortable with me being around her food. But more frequently, if I'm petting her, if I'm handling her while she's eating, sometimes I'll throw treats in there. That way it's more of a positive experience with me being around her food. But I do want to make sure that she doesn't have any type of resource guarding and that she's very comfortable with me being around her, as well as I've had my children feed her, which she does really, really well with. She's never displayed any type of resource guarding or aggression, anything like that. She's just very, very sweet. Huh. which we've also spent a great deal of time handling her, making sure that she's comfortable. She's not going to get frustrated with me or nip at me if I'm handling her paws or her ears, her teeth. Good girl. Also, because she is a doodle, she's going to need to be groomed. So we spent a lot of time brushing her, combing her. We've clipped around her eyes as well as some hygiene cuts. We don't ever shave them down here, but we have socialized her with the clippers and with a blow dryer, and just making sure that she is very accustomed to being handled in all sorts of different ways. Oh, good girl. And anytime that I expose her to something really weird, if I hold her in a strange way, I'm going to make sure that I reward her and tell her that she's a very, very good girl. Oh, good girl. Especially with clipping nails, because that's always a fun one. Puppies don't always love their paws being handled. So I want to make sure that she's compensated for all of my shenanigans. Good girl. Which, very, very good. Huh. Part of this also, so I just handled her mouth and looking at her teeth. So she is right in the middle of teething. So she needs to chew. That does not mean that she gets to chew on our things or things around the house. There are a lot of different things that she is not allowed to put her mouth on. So if she goes up and she picks something up that she's not supposed to, I'm going to tell her no, and then I'm going to replace it with something of similar texture. Come here. So if she started chewing on a baseboard or something hard, I'll give her something like this bully stick, because she's going to chew based on what she feels like her mouth needs, and I want to match that texture and consistency so that I can help her alleviate maybe some of the pain or pressure of losing those teeth, which, like I said, so she's right in the middle of that. I think she's lost one or two, so she's going to need to chew. Also, because of that, I am just going to give her things to chew on. I don't want to give her a whole bunch. Instead, it's like, you know what, we have a downtime. Why don't you chew on this bully stick? Or maybe I'll give you a toy, and I'll let her pick, because like I said, she has something that she needs, whether she needs something soft to help loosen a tooth or maybe something hard to actually pull it out. But I also don't want to just leave her toys lying around. As soon as she gets up and she leaves and she's done chewing on something, I'm going to take it away. That way I keep this novelty effect. It's exciting. It's not something that's just around all the time. Because if she has full access to her toys, she is going to get bored with them, and then she will go find something else to chew on. And generally, we don't like what they find. So if she starts chewing on something, we're going to tell her no, give her something to chew on. If she picks something up like a sock or a shoe, then you can use the drop it command and have her spit it out and then replace it with something she's allowed to chew on. With drop it, when I work on this command, a lot of times I'm just playing with her. So maybe before I pull the toy out, I'll ask her to drop this bully stick, which she likes to offer behaviors to. Goldie, drop it. Oh, good girl, good girl. Anytime I'm taking something of high value, like something edible, such as a bully stick or a marrow bone, I do give her a treat, like I'm switching her. I don't want to take something that's really high value to her without exchanging it. However, with a toy, I never offer her any treats for dropping a toy. Instead, she gets the toy back. I want to keep this toy drive. I want her excited to play with me, and she loves to play. So when I ask for a drop it, I'll say, good girl, I'll take it, and then give it back to her. So I'll say, okay, and throw the toy. So, Goldie, drop it. Good girl, good girl. Okay. And then she's able to go and get it again. Good girl, good girl. Drop it. Good girl, good girl. Okay. So working on drop it, I'm literally just playing with her. Now, if she refused to give it up or she hesitated, if I said drop it and she didn't let go, I would then say no, and I would take it away. When I take it away, there's kind of a couple different ways. One is I can take it on both sides, and I can basically make the toy be dead, and then I'll work my hands in and rotate my knuckles and just kind of pry it out. That's the least aversive. But if she, instead for me, if she's if she hesitates, she decides not to spit it out, I'm going to tell her no, and I curl my fingers around her lips into her mouth. So I'm not hurting her, it's just a very quick eject button. So it's just right over the top, and she'll spit it out. Good girl, okay. But she never gets to take her toys and run and hide from me. If I ask her to drop it, she has to release it. And once again, if it's something of higher value, something edible, then I will offer her a treat in turn for giving it up. With a toy, I'm just going to play with her. I really, really want to keep this toy drive. I don't want to diminish it because toys are such a good way to help burn off some energy as well as kind of decompress with some of that mental buildup, especially during the transition. Drop it. Couldn't tell whether you let it go or not. I think you were chewing on the tags. Do one more time. Good girl, good girl. Drop it. Okay, very last thing on our manners list is going to be mouthing. So Goldie is never allowed to chew on my pant legs, my arm, my hands, my fingers. She does not get to mouth me at all. Good girl, okay. If she does, I'm going to quickly tell her no and close her mouth. Okay? I'm not clamping down, I'm not trying to hurt her, it's just a no, and then I take my hands away. Okay? We don't want to go, oh no, don't bite me, because then it turns into a game. Instead, it's very quick, no, hold her muzzle, hands away, give her like 10 seconds, good girl, okay. She shows me that she's in control, she's not going to mouth me, then I'll go back to petting her. If she does it a second time, I tell her no, close that muzzle, now hands go away, and I'm going to step away. I'm kind of taking her favorite person away, even if that's for like 20 seconds, but if you're going to put your teeth on me, you no longer get to hang out with me, because I don't put up with that at all. So I'm very quick to shut that down. Even though she's a puppy and she's going to be teething, she does not get to put her mouth on me whatsoever. Okay. If she continues to want to maybe come up, chew on shoelaces or pant legs, or like I said, sleeves, anything like that, then I can tell her no and give her something to chew on. Now the other thing I'll mention with the toy, if she refused to give this to me and I had to physically take it away, I'm also going to ask for a sit or a watch me and have her show that she's in control before I give that toy back. So if she messes up, she has to earn it back. Goldie, come here. So I can ask for a little sit. Okay, good girl. And then throw it. The other thing is anytime that your children are playing with her, or anytime little kids are playing with her, I do always want to have that toy available so that Goldie has something that she can direct her mouth towards. Because if she's going to mouth on anybody, or she's going to try and take a toy and run the other way, it is going to be with small children. It does just take longer for puppies to learn to respect kids and not think of them as litter mates. So if she starts doing that, we can have that toy, we can throw the toy, direct the dog away from the kids. Because sometimes, even though Goldie is adorable and is super, super sweet, some kids are a little bit nervous around puppies or around dogs. So if that's the case, we want to make sure that we have a way that Goldie can still be in the area, but she has an outlet and to help her be well-mannered. Also, if they are nervous of Goldie, we never want them to run away. If they run, they are turning into a toy. So instead, if Goldie comes running up and they think that she's going to jump, we don't want to step back, we don't want to run away. Instead, I'll always step into her and hold my ground. That way Goldie understands, like, oh, I can't jump on them. So with that, I believe that concludes our manners, and we're going to move on to our commands. The first command I'm going to show you is her place command. So when I ask her for place, I just step close to it and I point and tell her place. So we have taught this command to be somewhat of a universal command. We've taught her on a lot of different platforms, different objects, rugs, beds, all of it. So because it can be a universal command, I want to make sure that I'm very clear in telling her what I want or where I want her to be. Goldie, come here. So when doing it, I'll just step near, place. I will tell her good when all four paws are on and give her a reward. Now she's not allowed to come off. Even if she takes one paw, I'm going to tell her no and reset. If we have some really hard distractions, like my kids are here, they're running around, or they're on rollerblades, no, place. So just like that, she broke, she got distracted. I make sure that she's in control. Oh, good girl, and reward that. But the heavier the distraction, the more I will reinforce this behavior. So like I said, if my kids are here, they're running around being crazy, periodically I will give her a treat. And if I do have that heavy distraction, I might stay really close. She shows that she's in control. It's, oh, good girl. I give her a reward. If I don't have that heavy of a distraction, I'm going to reward her less. Right now, she's doing about 2 minutes on place, which is really good for a puppy, but don't be satisfied with it. You can always improve this command. This is one where easily it could build up to an hour within the first year of her life. I love the place command. This gives my dog something to do when I need them just out of the way. For my personal dogs, this is something that I've taught them, that when somebody comes to the door or rings a doorbell, they go to their place. Obviously for a puppy, that's a big or a more advanced command, so that's something to build up to and something that she can easily accomplish. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Now when I'm ready for her to come off, I'll say, okay, good girl. But no treat for coming off. She only gets that reward when she's in her place. This teaches her that the longer and more settled she is, the more reward she's going to get. And I don't want to build a charge. I want her to relax. Now, if I'm teaching her a new place, the first couple times I will probably lure her on, and then I will quickly release her. So it'd be like, Goldie, place. As soon as all 4 paws, good girl. Okay, good girl. Place. And then as she shows that she's understanding our boundary, then I can step back and start to increase that duration. This is also a really fun command if you like to hike or go on trails, that you could start to send her to rocks or logs, anything like that. Okay, good girl. The crate command operates very similar, so I will just point and tell her crate. Our standard is to tap on top, which we have passed with Goldie. You can see I tapped and she immediately goes in. I didn't have to actually say the command. Okay, good girl. So I will just point crate. When she goes in, she gets the treat, but not when she comes out. Okay, good girl, good girl. Crate. Now we've also made sure to teach her that I can close that door, open it. The door is not the release. Okay, good girl. If she hesitates, I'm just going to stay close. I'm going to keep my hand there, and that's when maybe I'll tap on top or maybe stick my hand in there. I do not want to throw treats in there because I don't want to bribe her. Okay, I will reward her for doing the right thing, but I do not want to bribe her. Good girl. When introducing a new crate, you might have to help her out that first time, which my go-to for helping her out the first time is just standing here staring and tapping. When she goes in, say, go girl, release her. Okay. Go girl, go girl. Now we have sit, down, and stay. So we have 3 hand signals attached there. So sit is a little scoop up over the nose. My palm will be up, closed fist, just that motion. When we first taught her, we were exaggerated. Now I just stick my hand out. Down, I just take my hand flat and it's off to the side, and then stay is a stop sign. So, Goldie, sit, down, stay. You'll notice I did not give her a treat with the sit or the down, so this reward comes at the very end. It's what we consider a chain command. So right now she's doing 20 seconds for both a sit and a down stay, which once again, it's very good for a puppy, but don't hesitate, don't hesitate. Always try to improve that. Okay, good girl, good girl. Now, if I put her in a sit, stay, sit, no, so like that, she's trying to guess, sit, stay, and she slides into a down. Perfect example, Goldie. I do not care about that. The down is more of a solidified stay anyway. She has more points of contact, so I'm absolutely okay with that. But if I put her in a down stay, she is not allowed to come up. If she does, I'll tell her no and reset. Okay, good girl. Try to hurry and beat you. You were getting a little antsy. So we're going to do it one more time. Come here. She's very, very good at guessing. Sit, stay. She's also very proud of her down, so she will offer that behavior all the time. Okay, good girl, good girl. Now, if she's struggling, I know we mentioned this in the first video, but if she's struggling, I'm always going to help her out. I never want to get frustrated, and I never want to end on a failure. So if I asked her for that sit, and she was a little bit confused, kind of how she was there for a second where she tried to go to the place, just a simple no, and then I gave her an exaggerated hand signal. Sometimes I'll step into her or bend at the waist. But same thing, if I tell her down, and she's looking at me like, I have no idea what you're talking about, instead of going down, 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 I'm going to leave my hand there, and then I'll gradually get a little bit lower. I do not want to use a foot lure. I want to just use that hand signal and get a little bit lower. If she's struggling on a stay, like if she broke 3 times in a row, that means it's too hard. So I'm going to break that behavior down, even if I have to go to the simplest form. So if I'm doing a downstay, I might only hold her to a 3-second downstay the next time, even though she just did 20 seconds a minute ago. But I want to help her succeed. And if at that point you get a couple successes, you can end there, or you can work on building her back up. Good girl. Good girl. Okay. I'm going to grab some different treats here, and we're going to talk about leave it. So leave it is different than no and drop it. Leave it means don't look at that thing, don't touch it, don't sniff it. She's never going to get something that I tell her leave it. So I do not use leave it for things around the house, permanent objects that she's always going to have access to. Instead, I use it for things that I can take away from Goldie, or I can take Goldie away from. You getting just a little bit antsy here. I've been distracting her, so I'm going to have her ring the bells and take her outside first. So we'll walk over here, which I generally like Goldie on the other side, but just so you can see. Okay, good girl, outside. So she rang the bells. Now we're going to wait at this doorway. No. Okay, good girl. We'll go to the bathroom. Okay. Ooh, where are you going? Which she did pee, so that was great. So going back to the leave it command. Like I said, this is something that I can take Goldie away from, or I can take away from Goldie. So I'm going to use these treats. Now, even when I'm using food that she's used to eating, I'll tell her leave it, and then she does not get that treat. So I'm going to set these on the ground. You smell them. Also, before I set them down, you'll notice that I do have a hold of this leash pretty good. So that way, if she does try and quickly go for it, I can tell her no and give her that quick feedback. Like I said, this is a heavier distraction of one because we are using treats. Leave it. So I get no. Good. Notice I gave her just a quick little tap up, and now she's leaving them alone. She's still staring at him, so I'm very quick, or prepared to be very quick. Good girl. To correct her if needs be. Goldie, come here. Good, good. See how now she's walking around them? She's no. We're going to give them a very wide berth. Good girl. As she continues to leave them alone, I'm going to continue to reward her. Come here. So now let's leave it. Good. You can see there's just that really quick correction. Now, if I was on a walk and we came across something really gross, I would say leave it, and then I'd be like, good girl, good girl, good girl, and reward her as we walk away. We want to quickly get past it just so she doesn't think that she can quickly grab it. Now, even when I'm picking it up, I don't want her to think that she can dive in here and grab it. No, leave it. Good. Once I take it away, I'll say, okay, good girl, and reward her. All right, now I'm going to adjust the camera angle again, and we are going to go over her leash work. So we'll talk about the heel, engagement, the long lead, and our recall command. We are now going to talk about Goldie's leash work. So we're going to start with talking about the heel, what to do during that walk, what it's used for, what to do if she starts to pull. Then we'll talk about engagement, which will be hard to demonstrate because I don't have anybody here with me to be a distraction, which we will demonstrate at your home. Then we're going to talk about her long lead walk as well as her recall attached to that. So the long lead walk is for Goldie. That's how we exercise her. The heel is for you. This is how we get from point A to point B. This is when I need Goldie's attention on me and not on any other distraction. She needs to be on my left side. She needs to be focused on me, paying attention. And in turn, because this is such a focus-based activity, I am going to do what I can to keep her focus, which means I'm going to give her a lot of feedback. So I'm going to say, good girl, good girl. I'm going to give her plenty of treats, and I expect her to be right by my side. Now, I keep her on my left side because I'm right-handed. It's just easier for me to deal. Now, this is also very dependent on a relationship. So right now, she heals very, very well for me and for my trainers. This is one that you're going to have to practice, and you can literally just practice around the yard or around the house. Maybe out in front, we'll go down a house, back a house, but I'm going to keep it very simple for the first little bit. Focus on getting positive repetitions and minimize the distractions as much as possible. So the other thing, while in a heel, if I stop, I expect her to stop. Okay, so I'm going to tell her, Goldie, heel. Good girl, good girl. I also expect her to match my pace in a heel. Good girl, good girl. As she's walking well, I'm going to reward her. Heel, which we are definitely getting tired. Heel, good girl, good girl. I will repeat this command every once in a while, especially if I'm turning, changing directions, or if I stop and I start again. When I stop, I expect her to sit right there. Good girl. Now, if you're stopping for a longer period of time, like longer than 20-30 seconds, you might need to tell her to stay and then continually reinforce this behavior. You got a good itch right now, don't you? Heel. Good girl. Good girl. Notice I'm giving her lots of feedback. If she started to pull, I'm going to correct that. Good girl. Now, if we were walking and she just got a little bit distracted, started looking at something out in the distance, she started looking or started sniffing the air, anything like that, I'm going to get her attention back on me. So that's when I would say, Goldie, something like that. Get her attention because she hasn't started pulling yet, but obviously she's getting a little distracted. If she then started to pull and you just felt that leash tighten, she took the slack out, I'm going to say no, pop, pop. I don't need to be firm. I don't need to yank her back. This is not to inflict harm. This is literally just to regain her attention to then help change her behavior. So it's just no, pop, pop. I will do that twice. Okay, so if I did no, pop, pop, and she continued to pull, I would say no, pop, pop, get a little bit more firm. If she regains her focus, as soon as she looks at me, I'll say, good girl, and we will continue on our way. But if she doesn't, if she continues to pull, then I am coming to a complete stop, and I am waiting and getting her attention back on me. If she does, if she focuses back on me, we're good, we can continue to walk. But if she then started to pull again, then I'm turning around and walking the other direction. Okay. At that point, I am no longer walking at a nice casual pace. We are moving quickly and we are going back and forth. So I will turn away from the distraction, walk the opposite way. Once she shows that she's in control, then we will turn around and start walking back towards the distraction. She starts to pull, it's right back around. So I literally back and forth, back and forth. I might even throw some zigzags in there just to help her focus on me and not on whatever's happening around. So she's a little tired, so I don't want to be too aggressive with it, if you will. But what it looks like, Goldie, come here. So if she started to pull, I just no, and I'm going to step into her. Come on. Good girl, good girl. And then I'm going to walk right back. So we're going at a quick pace. You'll notice as soon as I start doing this, she's now looking up like, whoa, what are we doing? And that's what I want. Good girl, good girl. I want her focus on me. So like I said, the heel is for you. This is when we need to get past the distraction. This is when we're in a public setting and we just need to get from point A to point B. If you come across a distraction and it's too much, she can't walk, she's just hyper focusing on it, maybe she's getting a little bit reactive, so she's wanting to bark at it, or she's alerting, maybe she's get this tense body posture, then instead of trying to force her to walk through that type of distraction, I am going to engage with her. So when I talk about engagement, it is doing whatever it takes to get my dog's attention on me and to help her feel secure in that maybe uncomfortable situation. So say we're on a walk and maybe here comes a jogger or somebody on a bicycle and Goldie alerts, so she goes woo, 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 maybe barks, ha, gotcha. At that point, I'm going to step to the side of the sidewalk or the trail, move over into the grass, and I am going to get Goldie's attention. So there's a couple different levels. At first, if she just alerts, I can just once again go, hey, Goldie, Goldie, something like that. If she switches her focus on me, then we can move past it or we can just wait for them to pass and we're good. But if she starts alerting, I'm going to tell her no, and then the moment that she looks at me, I'll say, good girl, good girl. And at this point, I'm going to ask for very simple commands and I'm going to keep her focus. Now, if you told her no, she sits there and now she's being polite. Maybe she's still a little bit tense, but she's watching that distraction go past, but she's in control. I will let her observe. We call it the art of doing nothing. You can observe as long as you are in control. But if you get out of control, then I'm going further into these steps to engage with you. At that point, if she keeps reacting, I am going to get more distance between me and the distraction. I am also now going to put my back towards the distraction, step in front of her, so that my body language is saying, hey, I'm not worried about that. I'm in control. I'm going to take care of you. And once again, I'm rewarding her every single time she looks at me. I'm looking for these simple successes. I'm not asking for a whole bunch of commands. It is literally, you're sitting or you're not pulling, you're in control. Good girl, good girl. This is also when I'll utilize our watch me command. So watch me is just to get eye contact. And I'm not looking for deep, prolonged eye contact. I'm looking for a flicker. So it's just, watch me. Good girl. So that one, she even hesitated. I had to help her out. Watch me. Okay, good girl. There it is. So I'm just looking for that flicker eye contact. And with that, where she kind of ignored me, I'm going to wait and set her up, wait for her to put her head down and do it again. But once again, I'm just looking for simple victories. If I put my back towards the distraction and she started doing this little jump around trying to see what's going on, at that point, I will crouch down, totally enveloping her and rewarding her for being in my presence. With this, there is a big difference in coddling my dog and rewarding her for being in control. Because as she starts to focus on me and she comes out of that red zone, I'm going to start taking away steps. So now it's like, okay, we're not trying to jump around me. Now I'm going to open back up and I'm going to let you watch this distraction. You're in control, good girl. Now maybe let's take a couple steps to it. You're still in control, good girl. Now let's walk a little closer. And we're gonna slowly move closer and reward less as she regains control. So hopefully that makes sense. I said, I'm sure that there will be something at your house that she reacts to or gets a little bit nervous, and we can work on this. In general, I don't think she'll ever be this dog that wants to bark, bark, bark and run up to something. Instead, she's kind of a little more on the cautious side. Like, she wants to observe but not interact. So and really she's not a reactive dog. She's got a really, really good personality. So watch me. Okay, good girl. Good girl. Okay. So like I said, we'll demonstrate that up there. But now I'm going to switch leashes, and I'm going to grab our long lead. So this long lead that I have here is a 12-foot one. This is our shortest one because I'm inside. This is how I walk my dog. This is how she exercises and gets to actually be a dog. My personal long lead that I like to use is about 30 feet. That way we can go outside. My dogs have all this freedom that they can run, they can sniff and check things out, but I still have control. The shorter one is great for around the neighborhood, maybe at a park, somewhere where I need just a little bit more control. While we're on a long lead walk, like I said, I am letting her be a dog. So if she wants to stop and sniff a bush, great, I'm gonna let her. If she wants to go a little bit ahead, if she wants to go behind, she wants to go off the side, that is all just fine. She is still not allowed to pull. If she gets to the end of the leash and starts to pull, I am going to call her to come. So that is her recall. Her recall is, Goldie, come. Good girl, good girl. I'll actually demonstrate that here in just a second. So that way, when she starts to hit the end of the leash, she's checking in with me, she's coming back. I'm really reinforcing this recall command, which is the most important command you have. This can be a life-saving command, and this is one that I practice the absolute most. Anytime we're on a walk, I'm calling my dog to come multiple times just to get a reward and let them go again. So if she hesitates or if she ignores me, I'm going to tell her no, and I'm going to reel her in. So with the recall also, as soon as I call her and she initiates that, so she turns and she takes like 1 or 2 steps towards me, I am then going to hit her with that good marker. So it's going to be, good girl, good girl. So I'm very rewarding because I'm reinforcing that behavior of coming to me. I'm telling her, you're doing the right thing, keep coming. Once she gets to me, I'll say, okay, and give her a treat. If she fails, you're going to use all 3 markers. So you're going to say, no, good girl, good girl. Okay, all right? So she has a phenomenal recall. So we actually just barely went on a nice off-leash walk where she's running through the field. She was following my dogs along, and she would stop on a dime. So she is doing really, really well with this, and that's because we've spent a great deal of time practicing. Anytime she hesitates, I put her on the long lead and we practice. So we're going to see. Goldie, come. Good girl, good girl. Okay. So it's as simple as that. Like I said, you can just go on a walk, let this leash drag, and every so often I'm just going to call her to come. Nope. You can tell we're getting tired and bored because now we want to chase the leash around. Nope. So I'm going to set her up here just because, like I said, we don't have a good enough distraction. She's just going to follow me. Oh. But it's just Goldie, there's a brief pause, and then come. Yeah. And she's pretty much a little bit of a Velcro dog. She loves to be by my side. She loves to just be with people. Goldie, come. Good girl, good girl, okay. Said if she hesitated, it's no. Give her a little tug, so it's no. Good girl, okay. It's like that. She's doing well and you want to let her off leash, start in a controlled environment and gradually work with more and more distractions. But as soon as she hesitates, she goes back on the long lead. Now, if she is off leash and she ignores you, you no longer have this leash to follow through. So you have your voice, you have your body language. So if she was outside and she had her head down in a hole and I knew that she was going to fail, I was like, I don't even think she can hear me. Instead of actually calling her to come, I will just go and get her. And that's just setting yourself up for success. I don't want to set her up for failure. But let's say she's looking at me, which here, we're off leash. Goldie, come. Good girl, okay. Let's say she failed at that though. She looked at me and was like, no, I'm good. I would immediately say no, and I would start to walk towards her. Now, if she then turned and started coming towards me, I'm going to stop and I'm going to reward her. I'm going to say, good girl, good girl. I'm going to reward her when she gets here. Now, even if I had to go 90% of the way to her and the last 10% she came towards me, I will reward that behavior. I never reprimand my dog for coming to me. Even if I'm super frustrated, maybe she was out there digging in a flower bed, I would not call her to come when you're frustrated, because that's a quick way to burn your relationship and teach her that coming to you is a bad thing. If you had to go 100% of the way there, though, she never once initiated that recall, I would tell her no, clip on the leash, and then practice. So I would hook this leash on and then I'd say, come, and I would reward her for following me. You're just too good, huh? Good girl. And then I would know, okay, I need to practice this, so I'll hook the lead on her and practice. Like I said, this is your most important command, and this is the one I'm going to practice a lot. And I'm not going to let her off leash until I know that she's going to reliably come to me. So, but she's awesome. We really love this dog. I think you've got just a great one, and your family's going to really enjoy her. She is very well mannered. She's doing very well, but she is still a puppy. And so everything that we've went through, it needs to be followed through with. You need to be consistent. You have to follow through, and you have to manage her. If you can do that, she's going to be great. But I look forward to bringing her to you. I look forward to meeting you and working with you and Goldie together. Like I said, as you watch this, please write down any questions, and we'll go through them on Tuesday. But thank you so much for allowing us to train Goldie.